everyone. My name is Ann White. I'd like to welcome you here this evening for our community conversation. As the expert, and tonight's expert is Ashley. Ashley is a counselor here at Mind Body. She's been working at the center for 8 years, and prior to that, she also wore her counseling hat at a few other part-time jobs, and then said, too much, I'm going to work in one location. Ashley's been avid with yoga from a mindfulness perspective since a young age of 19, and has been in her counseling role for 17 years. So welcome, and we're looking forward to understanding mindfulness eating. We have more. Please come in.
Thank you.
Please
Hi.
have a seat.
Go ahead, you can sign in and I'll get these handouts for you. So welcome everyone. I'm so glad to see you all here tonight. There you go. Thank you. So like Ann said, my name is Ashley McWilliams. I've been doing counseling for a long, long time. And I would like to say I've been doing what you're going to learn tonight about mindful eating and mindfulness practice for even longer than I've been a counselor. So I started my practice of mindfulness and yoga when I was about 19 years old at a local YMCA, taking a class with someone, and was flipping through a magazine and saw a meditation retreat in Massachusetts. So at the young age of 22, I jumped in my car and by myself drove to Massachusetts and entered into a week-long silent meditation retreat. Okay, with 1,000 other people. I don't know if anyone is familiar with Thich Nhat Hanh. Has anybody heard? He's written like over 100 books. He's world-renowned for being a leader in mindfulness training. So I entered a meditation retreat with Thich Nhat Hanh where we were silent for an entire week, literally silent. All we did was practice mindfulness in every bit of our daily tasks for the entire week. So part of the practice, you would wake up, mindfully brush your teeth, mindfully walk outside, mindfully stretch, mindfully walk to the meditation hall, meditate for about 2 hours, and then mindfully walk to the eating hall where we practice mindful eating. I would like to say that I embraced mindful eating and meditation at first, but has anybody seen the movie Eat, Pray, Love? Yeah? Couple people, okay. Do you guys remember the scene where she walks into the meditation hall and she sits down and wants to be all peaceful and she ends up meditating for a minute and banging her head off the floor? Okay, I had a similar experience. So I would like to say that you all are gonna feel peaceful while eating mindfully tonight, but the truth is when I started this, I remember sitting there amongst a group of 1,000 people thinking, what am I doing? And having some of the worst anxiety I've ever experienced. So I just want to put that out there tonight because when you start the practice, it can be a little bit difficult to do it first. I want to put that expectation out there, but hopefully when you leave here tonight, you'll leave with a skill that you can start to do at home. So I want to tell you a little bit about my own journey. So I started my weight loss journey at 260 pounds. And I can now say that I'm standing here in front of you tonight at a weight loss of 130 pounds over the last few years. Well, several years. But mindful eating has been a big part of what I feel saved my life and really transformed me. So I am standing up here not only to speak to you about this because it's something that we're doing, but something that's very passionate to me because I really believe that it has the power to change people's lives. I've seen it time and time again. So I speak to you out of experience, out of practice, and hopefully you guys will all gain something from this evening. So I want to throw out a little research study to get you all motivated to really pay attention to the practice tonight. So there's been a couple research studies done where they show that the average woman that practices mindful eating reduces calorie consumption by up to 300 calories a day just by doing these activities. So you don't have to change anything else about the way you're eating except applying these skills. And on average, they reduce their calorie consumption by 300 calories a day. Maybe some of you are thinking, oh, 300 calories, that's really not that big of a deal. But if you know how many calories in a pound, there's 3,500 calories in the pound. So if you take 300 times 7 days a week, think about the changes that that can make and add up over time. So it's a pretty effective, well-known technique now. So I just want to see hands. Has anybody in here ever practiced mindfulness before? Does anybody know? Okay, we have one person, two people, a little bit. Okay, so really everybody's pretty unfamiliar with what mindfulness even means. Okay, that's what I was kind of expecting and hoping for, so we can have a little bit of learning tonight. Have people heard of mindfulness? Okay, there's a lot of buzz around mindfulness these days, so a lot of stuff coming out on neuroscience. So does anybody have a guess? Like, want to tell me what they think mindfulness might be, or a definition of mindfulness? Go ahead.
Enjoying, being mindful of what you're doing at that moment. So if you're eating a carrot, then you're thinking about the carrot.
Yeah, excellent.
Enjoying it. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay, so she said if you're eating a carrot, you're actually thinking about eating the carrot. Hi, welcome.
Hello.
Hi, that's okay. Come on in. So if you're eating the carrot, you're actually paying attention to eating the carrot. And I like what you said, you're actually there. You're actually seeing it. So a definition of mindfulness is paying attention in the present moment in a non-judgmental way on purpose. So paying attention in the present moment in a non-judgmental way on purpose. So let's start with the first part, paying attention. Does anybody have any guesses? How much do you guys think we pay attention in our daily life right now? How focused do you think we are? Does anybody work with kids? Yeah. How focused are they right now in their daily life? What would you guys guess would be the average attention span for the average student these days?
0.
That's a close. Did you hear me earlier? 10 seconds or less. 0. There's a little more than 0. That was close. We got some good. So the average attention span right now of us as adults is about 8 seconds. We have about an 8-second attention span. Now, when a few, yeah, it makes this presentation easy because I stand up here and know that people are only paying attention for 8 seconds at a time, and then you're drifting off to other thinking, so you're not even really listening. But no, so does anybody know the average attention span of a goldfish? 9 seconds. They've got us beat.
Oh no.
Yeah. So paying attention, it sounds on the surface as a very easy task, but paying attention is actually something that we're really struggling with today in our present society because of things like multitasking, right? I mean, how many people, you guys can raise your hands if you'd like, or half raise them, how many people usually eat dinner with the television on? How about playing on your phone? Laptops, computers, eat lunch on your computer, checking your email? Like one of these, right? Okay. Point being, we're not paying attention to what we're actually doing. We're multitasking. We're kind of in and out of eating, but we're not really paying attention, okay? So paying attention on purpose, okay? So there's an intentional act here. Mindfulness doesn't just come about. Okay, we actually have to make a choice to purposefully put attention into the act. Kind of a choice, I'm going to pay attention to this. I'm going to shut off other distractions. Okay, paying attention on purpose in the present moment. How often do you guys think right now we spend our time living our lives in the present moment? Not very often. What are we usually doing? Where are we all the time if we're not here? In the future? Yeah. Thinking about what kinds of things. If you're in the future, planning, right, what you're going to have for dinner that night. Okay. Yeah, that's right. So that's exactly right. So what we see is, I usually explain this on a continuum. We're usually, here's the present moment, and our minds are usually drifting off into either thinking about the future or ruminating about the past, right? So kind of stuck in, my favorite is like that argument you had with your spouse before you left, or, thinking about somebody that harmed you or damaged you in the past, worrying about the future, but so rarely are we actually here with what we're actually doing, okay? So paying attention on purpose in the present moment in a non-judgmental way, okay? So the non-judgmental, the last piece, is a really important piece of this. How many people judge themselves for the things they eat on a daily basis? Show of hands. Okay. How about when I tell you that we're going to eat chocolate tonight? Anybody judging that? Oh, that's bad. That's bad. Okay. We got to be careful. We got to be careful with the judging piece because our mind, I think the studies are within 1/24th of a second of entering upon a stimulus in our environment, we have a judging reaction. Now, there is a biological purpose for this, but in that next moment, we have a choice to continue to believe that judgment or to let it go. Okay? So our mind is judging, but we have a choice to continue to believe it or to let it go. Okay? So when we're being mindful, you're going to become more aware of judgments coming in, guilt thinking, or maybe judgments of this is a good food or this is a bad food, and we're going to work on letting these judgments go. So any questions about the 4 steps of mindfulness? No? So we're going to practice it, not using food. Can you take a penny? I don't want to touch them because I'm going to pass out food here soon. Actually, what might be quicker, I'll just dump up a couple pennies in here. You guys can take them. So we have some time. You guys want to participate?
Thank you.
Do you want to participate? There you guys go. All right. Yep, just one. This one right here. Here you go. No problem. So what we are going to do is I am going to ask you guys to engage in your first mindfulness meditation practice, okay? And instead of using food, I thought we could start with a neutral object of a penny. So what I want everybody to do is to put your feet on the floor, sit up in your chair, and I want you to take the penny in your hand. I want you to look at your penny as if it's an alien from outer space. I want you to look at your penny as if it's something that you've never seen before. I want you to visually see the penny with your eyes and use your senses to observe the penny. Focusing on your breath and keeping your breath still. Nice deep breaths. Just focus your attention on the penny. The colors of the penny, the different textures of the penny. And you can use your sense of touch to feel the different surfaces in your hand. Just notice the different surfaces. Notice any judging that might come up as this penny is nice or not nice. This penny is good or not good. And just notice them and let them go. It is what it is. Using your senses to feel the penny. And now take the penny up to your nose and use your sense of smell to smell the penny. And just notice the smell. Notice any judgment that comes into your mind surrounding the smell as good or bad. And just be aware of it and let it go. And now use your sense of sound to tap the penny. You can try out some different surfaces, but really listen to the sound. Tune into the sound. Okay. I want you to take one more look at your penny and just notice again with your eyes visually the different textures, the writing, as if you had never seen the penny before. If I was going to tell you, whoever can tell me the most about this penny in the end will receive $1 million. Look at the penny and give me as much details as you can. Okay. So congratulations, you just did your first mindfulness meditation experiment. Okay. So we used your senses. We didn't taste it. We'll do that. We'll do that next. But we used your senses of vision, hearing, smell, and touch to be able to observe the penny. Did anybody notice anything that happened? Any thoughts that came up while you were doing the experiment? Any judgments that came up of good and bad thinking? It stunk? Yeah. Yeah, good. So you noticed that, right? So you don't need to judge that, it's just the noticing. Okay?
It's fun flipping a coin.
Yeah. Any other thoughts that came up? Go ahead.
I actually thought that at first I made a judgment before we started the mindful that it was the most tarnished one, that's why I picked it. But then as I was looking at it, I went, there's shimmers all through this thing. So maybe it's not as tarnished.
So you just noticed the shimmering.
Yeah.
Good. So mindfulness is really about the noticing. Noticing objects as they are in the environment. Okay? Does anybody have any questions about mindfulness at this point? Okay. If you guys can just leave the pennies in the middle of the table, I can just come along and collect them later because I use those for other mindfulness training, so I would appreciate that. Thank you. So moving on, I want to talk a little bit more about mindfulness and how we can apply this to eating. So what we talked about was the TV. I'm going to give you an example of what mindless eating looks like. So you walk in the door from a hard day at work, and you walk in the door and you're like, oh, it's been a rough day. I just can't take it. I just can't take it. And you immediately go to the cupboard and think, I'm going to eat those chips. I'm eating those chips. Right now I got to eat those chips. And you pull out the bag of chips and you go, it's been so hard. And you sit down on the couch and you open your bag of chips and you start watching the TV and you just start eating. And you don't plan on eating the whole bag of chips, but you just keep eating. You're watching the show. You start to relax. Keep eating the chips. Watching your show. Maybe you stop for a minute, but they're still there. So you pick some more up and continue to eat the chips. And you're starting to become really relaxed. You're enjoying the chips. And after your show is over, you look down and there's crumbs left in the bag. And you ate the entire bag of chips.
Somebody else did it.
So some feelings might start to arise in you at that point, okay? There might be, can anybody tell me what kind of feelings you think might be associated with that? Shame, excellent, yeah. Guilt and shame, two big ones, okay? Do you think there would be some positive self-talk going on, or maybe some more negative type self-talk towards yourself, okay? Just think about it. So that would be an example of mindless eating. And I'm sure we've all done it many, many times, okay? The opposite of mindless eating would be mindful eating. What that would look like would be this. You walk in the door, you had a bad day. Oh, I'm so stressed out. I just couldn't get a break all day. Oh, just can't take it anymore. And you go to the cupboard and you're like, oh, I just want these chips. I just want these chips. Oh, and you stop. And you look in the cupboard and you say, what's going on here? You take a couple deep breaths, take a moment to center yourself. You take a minute and put your hand on your belly. Am I really hungry right now? No judgment. Am I hungry? You tune into your belly and you say, you know what? I think I am a little bit hungry. I feel like I might just need a snack. And I know I had a stressful day, so I think I need a little snack. And then I think I might need to do something else, like maybe go take a walk outside and drink a big glass of water. So you take a few minutes and you think, well, I'm going to have potato chips because I'm in the mood for something really salty right now. I just want something salty. That's what I really feel, saltiness. So you take out a plate, a small plate. You open your bag of chips. You listen to the sound of the chip bag opening. You put your hand in. You take a few. You set it on the plate. Roll up the chip bag. Put it back in the cupboard. Sit down at the table with your plate and look at the chips. And you just take a moment, take a couple deep breaths, and you begin to eat your chips. You don't eat them like this. You eat them slowly. So you smell the chip as it's coming up to your nose. And then you take a bite and you hear the crunch. And then you begin to chew the chip. And guess what? You taste it, which is awesome, right? And you get to feel that flavor kind of explode in your mouth. And you chew the chip and you hear the sound of your chewing, and you follow the chip down into your belly. And before you reach for the next chip, you complete that one. You eat it completely. Then you reach for the next chip and do the same process. When you're done eating your small plate of chips, you say, I think I feel satiated right now. I think I feel pretty comfortable. I think it's time to go take that walk. So you go outside, because you know you had a stressful day, and exercise is good for stress. You take your walk, you come in, you have your big glass of water, and you're done. What do you think the feelings would be then? Relaxed. Anything else? Satisfaction. Yeah. I'd be like, yeah! I did it! I conquered my stress without stress eating, right? I used mindfulness skills. That's a pretty amazing feat. That's pretty hard to do. If you guys try to practice this, you're going to see that. So that is the opposite. Do you think there's a pretty big difference between the two of those? Absolutely. Absolutely. So any questions about that so far? We get a good sense of the difference between eating mindfully and eating mindlessly? Okay. So what we're going to do is we are going to practice the skill, okay? And we are going to start with eating pretzels. Does anybody in here have gluten allergies or anything like that they can't? Okay. Well, I guess you will have to sit out. Do you want to practice with 2 pieces of chocolate? You can. Do you mind passing out napkins in front of me? Okay. Do you want to just sit this one out? Oh, okay. Did you bring anything in your purse, like a lifesaver, or do you have anything that you could use? Can you just go ahead? If you could go ahead of me and pass them out, that'd be awesome. Thank you. Oops.
Oh, that's okay. You know what? I don't get the chips enough. You can say,
Thank you.
Hannah's our lifesaver. Thank you.
That's right. I usually come home with a bag of
No napkin for her.
Yeah. She's not feeling very well.
Oh,
Well, just somebody else.
sorry. What's that? No. No. Pretzel? I don't want this to drop. Thank you. There you are. There you are. You're welcome. There you are. Okay. So, guys, don't start eating your pretzel yet, please. I have to tell you one of my favorite stories. It was one of the best moments of my life. I was doing a mindful eating presentation for a large group of people, and I passed out 2 pieces of chocolate to everyone. And before I could get around and get back up here and get started, I looked out and I said, okay, we're going to start the mindful eating practice. And a person raised their hand and they said, I already ate my chocolate. And I said, that was the best thing that ever could have happened, because now I can use that as a teaching moment. And I kind of look around like, who's already starting eating? But it was the perfect example of mindlessness. You know, here we are at a mindful eating presentation where we're going to practice mindful eating, and unconsciously, without even thinking, they just ate their chocolate. No big deal. I mean, it's what we usually do. If something's in front of us, we just pick it up and eat it. So an awesome teaching moment. So guys, what we're going to do is we are going to now engage in mindful eating with a pretzel. Okay? So your job is easy. You guys are going to sit back and eat while I guide you through the mindful eating practice. I am going to warn you, this can be a little bit awkward with the crunching and the chewing. Just settle into it. It's okay. Okay? It's part of the experience. Try to work on letting go of any judgment of yourself when that comes up, when that arises for you. So again, feet flat on the floor, please. It's very important to open your airwaves so that you can get good deep breaths into your belly, into your diaphragm. So begin by just looking at your pretzel. And no talking during this, please. Examine the shape, the color, and the texture of your pretzel. Feel the salt on your fingers as you pick the pretzel up. Notice the different textures. Now bring the pretzel up to your nose and take a deep smell. Smelling the pretzel and taking note of the aroma of the salt. Now go ahead and place the pretzel in your mouth and notice the taste of the salt when you put the pretzel on your tongue. Take a bite and be aware of the sound of crunching and chewing. As you eat the pretzel, note the rough texture against your tongue. Feel the pressure of your teeth grinding together. Notice how the texture changes as you chew. Just noticing. Notice any feelings that may be arising, any sensations, any memories, and just notice them and let them go. Staying present with your pretzel. Pay attention to the sensations you experience as the pretzel travels down your throat to your stomach. Say the word pretzel to yourself in your head. When you are watchful, you're aware of how your stomach expands and feels fuller. You experience each bite from start to finish by slowing down every aspect of the eating process to be fully aware of each movement. Swallow, aroma, and any feelings derived from eating. Just becoming aware. A mindful bite doesn't have to take a lot of time, but it does allow you to connect more closely with your food. Okay. So you guys can go ahead and stop. You're welcome to finish your pretzels. I just ask that you eat them mindfully while you continue. We can have the conversation. So what was that like for you guys? I just want to generate a little discussion. Was that different from what you usually experience when you're eating? What was different about that experience? Go ahead. It was slow, okay? Slower than normal. So quiet, a little bit awkward, huh? You can hear everybody in the room cry. I warned you. I've been through this more than once. I know this. I know. Believe me, a lot of people have that reaction. So slow.
No mustard.
Dry.
No mustard.
Just noticing the dryness in a non-judgmental way. Anything else?
Well, I didn't have a pretzel, but I have a lifesaver.
Yes.
And I always chew my lifesavers. So I
How
actually
interesting.
kind of need to still have the lifesaver in my mouth and I didn't chew it.
Uh-huh.
So I guess being mindful of, oh, this will last a long time.
Yeah. That it's actually, you get to enjoy it a lot longer.
Yeah.
Notice I said enjoy it a lot longer. There's something to this. It really does expand pleasure, you'll notice, with food. So inadvertently, we're not looking for that. Anything else? Go ahead.
I could see, like, pretzel this size, not the smaller one, but I could see eating this one being enough. And not needing 2 or 3 or 4 or a whole bag. That I could be done with pretzels after one.
That's awesome. So by noticing it it makes you even feel more satiated by that, to be able to see like I'm putting this amount into my body. Very good.
I thought it would be very different eating this way, because you're eating so much slower. How long is it going to take me to eat my dinner?
So let me address that. So her statement was it's going to take a lot more time to be able to eat. So there is a little truth to that. Okay, it may take a little more time, but in reality, we're not going to all sit around and eat that slow every day. And in the mindfulness community, everybody's aware of that. Okay, there's a certain time to practice this, but it doesn't have to be that slow. This is kind of exaggerated. It would be like doing 50 layups in a basketball practice or something like that, okay? It doesn't have to always be this way. The most important elements are just the paying attention, okay? Just the paying attention, noticing the taste, noticing the sensations, hearing the sounds. And what you'll notice during a meal is you kind of tune in and out of that as you go. But the important part is that you're tuning back in. You're continually bringing your attention back to what you're doing. I will tell you guys, I try to eat mindful breakfast every morning. That's just what I choose to do. I like to eat my breakfast mindfully. No TV, no sound. I set everything out, look at it, sit down with it. And I have started a practice because I have a tendency, if I leave my cell phone here, I pick it up and look at it. And then I put it back down. Oh yeah, you're mindfully eating, okay? What I would encourage you to do, now I leave it plugged in across the room. Okay, because it really is tempting to do that. But it's important to practice slow once in a while, but in reality, that's not what you have to do every time. Okay, I think maybe like if you have time on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning where you're enjoying a big meal, or maybe at dinner time at night when you have more downtime, that would be a good time to maybe eat a little bit slower. Practice putting your fork down in between bites. Okay, things like that. But it doesn't have to be as slow as we were eating there. Go ahead.
And we all have families, so when we sit around the table with our families, there's a conversation going on, so that's like distracting you from
Correct.
mindful
Absolutely.
eating. So are you saying that we should get one time in there or we're not around the family?
Not necessarily. I mean, if you are able, she asked the question, if you have a family setting, should you still practice on your own once in a while? My answer to that is, if you can, wonderful. I mean, if you're able to have a meal alone, I would really encourage turning off the TV, sitting down with it, really engaging. It's almost like a spiritual practice in a way, like sitting down with your food. It's an act of meditation. It's active meditation. So if you can do that, but you know, when I practice with my family, which none of my family members do this except me, so I'm just going to put that out there. There's a big joke of how long it takes, you know, for me to get finished. I'm usually the last one sitting down. I'm, you know, the one that has everything kind of spread out. I'm the one that takes the longest, and I sit there and I let them do their own thing until, you know, I'm finished. That's just what I do. My husband eats like this. We have a joke. He's not the most mindful eater. So, but you can still, we each have our choices to make. You know, you still have the choice to engage in mindful eating, even if the people around you are not doing that. So it's a very good question. Did that answer it? Okay. Yeah. Any other questions? Go ahead.
I kind of do that. I mean, I eat weird anyway because there's stuff that like a sandwich, I'll eat all the way around.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's how I started that, was just the mindful eating.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me more aware, and I am slower when I eat.
That's wonderful.
And you do feel more full. I think
Right.
But it's those times that do not mindfully eating
You keep wanting more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's something that probably a lot of people can relate to. You know, if you sit down and eat a meal, what you'll notice is you tune more into your body's response to the food. Does anybody know about how long it takes for food to settle into our bodies? It's about 20 minutes. Yep, that's correct. So, I mean, you start to get sensations of fullness, but again, if we're eating really fast, that doesn't start to kick in until it's kind of too late. And then we get overly full, right? So if we're eating slower, it kind of allows our body to work in its natural way to be able to say, hey, you're getting a little bit full here. You can choose to stop now if you would like. You know, you're satiated. And if there's food left on the plate, you can come back to it, you know. That gets me into another mindful eating, and I know we got to kind of watch the time here, but how many people had a rule in their house when they were little that they needed to finish everything on their plate? And, oh, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear one. And if you didn't finish everything on the plate, what did that mean? What did that imply? What was happening? You were wasteful. That's great.
You got nothing else until you finish what you have.
Okay, so like a punishment, so it was a bad thing.
Punishment, but not wasting food.
Yeah. What were you told if you wasted the food? What did that mean? Okay, you didn't get dessert? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Common thing here in our culture that if we don't finish what's on our plate, there is some guilt thoughts that are stuck into us of, you know, that I think parents, well-intentioned, you know, I know my parents were like, finish what's on your plate, you know, but well-intentioned, you know, wanted us to eat our food, you know, and finish what was on our plate. But unfortunately, children are kind of then not encouraged to listen to that own internal sense of when they're full, you know. So that's kind of what we're relearning. I have a lot of people say to me, how do I don't feel fullness and hunger anymore in my stomach. And what I say is do some yoga practice, start being more mindful in your life, start doing mindful eating, and that sensation will come back to you. You will start to recognize it and feel it again. It's absolutely there. Good question. So let's go ahead and do our last mindful eating experiment, this time with chocolate. Everybody gets 2. I am so sorry. That is good. Good. Excellent. I'm so glad you were able to adapt it. Chocolate? You are welcome. Thank you. You're welcome. There you are. Yes, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, guys. So what we are going to do is engage in mindful eating of chocolate. And I have some really good news for you. Does anybody know what chemical is released in our brains when we eat dark? Notice I said dark, not milk. Dark chocolate? Dopamine. So, yeah, once you guys eat this magic chocolate, you are going to feel great, okay? So this leads me to one of your handouts that I gave you that I want to talk about right before we eat our chocolate. Mood-boosting foods. What's that?
This is how come I'm stressed all the time.
Because you can't have chocolate, yeah. There's other foods on here that will help you with that. So I decided to put this in here because I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about food affecting our mood. Since I am a counselor, I wanted to add this a little bit into the discussion. Can anybody tell me where they think our serotonin is produced? Where? Okay. Any other guesses? You guys know what serotonin is, right? Okay. I assume most people know that at this point in time. 95% of our serotonin is produced in our stomach. Okay? And it is produced by the foods that we eat. One of the major components of serotonin is tryptophan that we get from turkey. Okay? It really helps with the production of serotonin. So what neuroscience is now showing, there is a huge correlation between what we're putting in our mouths and how our brains are affected by them, with depression, with anxiety, with fatigue, with our moods, everything, okay? So this is not by any means a complete guide, but there are a couple foods on here that I thought would be really important for people to look at. The first one is the dark chocolate. It releases chemicals such as dopamine. Oatmeal is involved in the release of serotonin, which produces a sense of calmness. I try to eat oatmeal pretty much every morning for breakfast because it's delicious, but also because it's producing serotonin. Spinach helps blood pressure. Another one is the salmon with the omega-3s. One that's not on here is walnuts. Avocado contains healthy fats, which helps you keep satisfied and helps nerve communication, which helps you think clearer. So, does anybody eat avocado regularly? Excellent, excellent. Let me give you guys my favorite avocado recipe, okay? Real quick, I'm just gonna sneak this in here. Just had this for breakfast. Take a piece of toast and a whole half of an avocado. Use it like butter, smash it down, fry an egg and stick it on top. Oh, it's delicious, awesome. My favorite breakfast. Yeah, and that is like setting your brain up for happiness all day, okay? Happiness and good energy. So, okay, just that for your guide. You guys can look at that on your own.
I'm gonna have that tomorrow.
Me too, right? That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
Really good.
it is delicious. It is delicious. What's that?
Get a healthy bread.
I like, yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna get that
I'm
right
gonna get
away.
wheat bagels, that's what I'm gonna get.
Egg over a giant eagle and have every piece imaginable. And it's crunchy.
Okay, guys, so for sake of time, I want to allow a little time of questions. I want to get started on the mindful eating of chocolate. So what we're going to do is pretty much the same thing we did with the pretzel, but this time I want you to go ahead, put your feet on the floor. Take the piece of chocolate, one piece of chocolate, and put it in your hand. And just notice the weight of the chocolate in your hand. Observe the shape and the color of the chocolate. And as you unwrap it, listen to the crinkle of the foil. Touch the chocolate and feel the texture between your fingertips as you pick it up. Silently describe the chocolate to yourself. Is it dark, smooth, or square? Just notice the shape. Roll it around in your hands. Now bring the chocolate up to your nose and inhale deeply. Take a few deep breaths and just breathe the chocolate smell in and out, in and out. Following the scent as it travels into your nose and to the back of your nostrils. Notice what's happening in your mind. Maybe it's anticipation or longing. You might notice your mouth starting to salivate. This is a normal response. Our body is preparing the mouth to be able to digest the chocolate. Go ahead and place the chocolate in your mouth now. And as you begin to chew, observe the burst of flavor, the richness, the sweetness. Experience the taste. Pay attention to the texture changing and molding to your tongue as the chocolate breaks down in your mouth. Experience the chocolate fully and engulf yourself in this taste sensation. Hold on to the feeling as it begins to fade away. And while you're noticing this piece of chocolate, while you're finishing it, you might feel a desire or even an overwhelming urge to go ahead and reach for your second piece of chocolate. See if you can just relax and stay focused on what you're experiencing in this moment, rather than jumping forward and anticipating the next bit of flavor. Roll the chocolate around against the roof of your mouth, becoming aware of any feelings, sensations, or memories surrounding chocolate. Maybe it was a chocolate kiss or a bar with crunchy, sweet almonds. Sometimes we feel guilty when we eat chocolate, or we believe a lot of shoulds and shouldn'ts about eating it. Don't try to push these emotions away. Just notice them. Just be present with the feelings and sensations, focusing all your attention on the taste and texture, the sound of your jaw chewing, and the sensation as the chocolate slides down the back of your throat. Imagine the chocolate piece in your stomach, and if you're experiencing a desire to have another, finish eating this piece of chocolate and only then reach for the next to savor. If you don't pay attention fully, you can get lost in the craving. Okay. So, I'm really interested in your feedback on the chocolate. Was it different than the pretzel, or did you notice a lot of the same things? Different? What was different?
Well, first of all, not
Okay.
pleasant. That wasn't even really that pleasant to me, and as I ate it, it was very dry and tasty in my mouth, and I didn't like that. But the chocolate, it's kind of like the same thing, like right away. As soon as I put it to my mouth, it's like Easter.
Associated with the memory of Easter. So there's a lot of memories and feelings tied up into the foods that we eat, and sometimes a lot of those things are provide us comfort in times of stress or in times of maybe grief or something that we need to deal with. I mean, a lot of times, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just notice that. I'm eating this chocolate right now because I need comfort, right? Just noticing it, okay?
The other thing I noticed though was that it's dark chocolate and that's more satisfying. You don't feel like you have to run into another bite. It's not sweet. Bitter.
There's different properties involved with the difference between milk and dark chocolate. So the dopamine release comes from the dark chocolate, not the milk chocolate. So any other thoughts about the chocolate eating? Did anybody notice the salivatation starting in their mouth? I love that. That's really interesting to watch. Pay attention. The best thing is television watching, okay? So if you're watching TV or if you're flipping through Pinterest looking at recipes, okay, notice what happens in your body. That advertising is wonderful for doing this, but you could be sitting there and watching hamburgers with French fries. You get this advertisement and suddenly there's a hamburger up there and suddenly you're like, I'm going to get a hamburger right now. And if you're not mindful of that, you might go ahead and follow that impulse. But another way to approach it is, I just ate dinner like 10 minutes ago, so I'm probably not really hungry right now. And I think that advertisement might have just triggered the thought of a hamburger in my mind, and my body might have had a physiological response of craving, okay? And notice there's no judgment. It's just it is what it is. And then I could choose to go get the hamburgers, or I could recognize that I'm really not hungry right now and I'm going to stay here and watch something else until the thought goes. Okay? Cravings and urges always pass. Go ahead.
When I get a craving for something, and if I don't eat what I'm craving and I just substitute and grab something else, I'm not satisfied, and I'm going to eat more because I want what I was craving. And don't you get
So mindful eating would say to that, to go ahead and if you have a craving for something, eat it in a mindful way. And what it would also say is, instead of taking a large portion the first time, take a small portion, have that, and then if you want more, go back for more. Does that make sense?
That's what I found. Sometimes when I have a craving and it's like maybe ice cream or something or the potato chips, if I don't eat some right away and I say, oh, I'm going to be good and I'm not going to have any, then I find I eat 2 or 3 times more.
Or something different.
Yeah. Well,
It doesn't satisfy the craving.
no.
Let me teach you something. First of all, did you hear what you just said? You just said something beautiful to me. You said, am I going to be good? Did everyone hear that? Because as a therapist, I was like, right on that. I was like, so there is judgment. You're associating good and bad with foods, and that's what we're letting go of in mindful eating. And not that you have to worry that you said that, but you would just notice it. Oh, I just did good and bad thinking. I can let go of that. This is not good or bad. This just is what it is. So, does that make sense? Okay. There was something else I was going to say, and I completely lost my train of thought. Had to do. What was the last thing you said? Do you remember?
Oh, if I don't give into that craving or
Okay.
right away, then I'm liable to eat. Yeah,
Let me do one more experiment with you guys before we wrap things up, and then I'll take your question in just a minute. I want everybody to not think about a pink elephant when I say go. Okay, so you can think about anything in the world, but don't think about a pink elephant. Ready? Go. Don't worry, I'm timing it. Okay, stop. How many people thought about a pink elephant? How many people thought about a pink elephant more than once? We did that for about 15 seconds. Okay, part of the reason that there's problems with dieting mentality is that there's restriction there. The second that you try not to think about something, it could be anything, it doesn't just have to be food, guess what happens? That's all you'll think about. Yep. So if you make a rule like, I'm not going to eat junk food for the next 6 months.
Oh, that's too long.
Good luck not thinking about that, and it becomes almost an obsession, okay? That's a mindfulness activity that I just completed with you guys. That's very popular. The second that we try to avoid thinking about something or to say, I'm not going to have this, it causes more energy towards that thought. So we actually think about it more. So that's why mindful eating says, well, if you want this, if you have a craving, then be mindful of eating it. Go ahead and sit down with it, take your small portion, and then you'll be done with it. And you might even choose, like, maybe I don't want it sometimes. Does that make sense? So mindful eating, I'm hoping you guys are seeing, it's not so much about the what, but it's more about the how that we're eating, okay? It's not the what, it's the how we're approaching it, okay? So I gave you guys a couple more. You had a question. I'm sorry. What was your question?
I was going to ask about, I was reading on the sheet here about, like dark chocolate, like, what is dopamine?
Dopamine is a chemical in our brains that's produced that makes us feel really happy and a lot of pleasure. And it also has a calming sensation to it.
I was going to ask, like, me personally, like, I'm not a chocolate eater at all. Like, is there anything else that, like, could be substituted for something like that?
I'm not sure off the top of my head what else would produce dopamine, but if you Googled it, you'd probably find a whole bunch of things that could do that.
Okay, thank you.
So unfortunately, a lot of sugary foods produce dopamine. I mean, I can tell you that, like anything high in sugar is going to release a surge of dopamine.
Like, I like cashews. When I was listening to what she was saying over there, like when she has a craving for something and then she goes for something else, that's me all the way. Like if I crave like Twizzlers or something like that, and I go to try to eat cashews or something,
It doesn't
I'm eating a
count.
whole thing of cashews and still having to eat Twizzlers.
Twizzlers anyways.
You see what
Yep.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm just a greedy person.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
I want to defeat the Twizzlers, and it seems like the more I defeat the Twizzlers, the more I go back to them.
Yep, that's exactly right. Thank you for sharing that. That's
No
exactly what happens. I mean, and some people would think, oh, that's willpower, or that's weak, or you would have these like thoughts associated with it. No.
The more, like I said,
No.
the more I try to defeat the Twizzlers, I'm always going back.
Yep, no, it's all working with your mind. So remember, if you tell yourself you can't have something, if you try to replace it with something when you have that craving, it doesn't work. It doesn't work for any of us. We're all in the same boat. Yeah. So very, very good. I just wanted real quick, I know we're out of time, and the handouts I gave you are just handouts to kind of supplement what we talked about, to remind you of the different skills, to help guide you. The mindful eating exercise is really there to help guide you through your own practice. I would encourage you guys again once a day, to try to do this. If you really wanted to start a practice, it would be really beneficial. Again, make sure that you're choosing foods that supplement your body. And then the last handout I gave you was just a little guide to help you navigate the difference between. So does anybody have any questions at all that I didn't answer? Anything that wasn't clear that we talked about? Nothing? Okay. So remember, 300 calories difference a day by just engaging in mindful eating. Makes a pretty big difference. So thank you. There's a whole bunch of resources up here. If anybody's interested, you can look at those. And if anybody has any personal questions, you can come up and ask me afterwards. So thank you all very much. Have a good evening. Thank you.